a.m. State Trooper Public Information Officer Cliff Greenfield is with us this morning, and we have him back as frequently as we can because it's so darned informative. Good morning.
Good morning, Todd. Thank you.
Good to have you back with us today.
Thanks. Thank you for having me back.
And I wanted to ask you about, well, it came out a week or so ago, the new rules, or maybe not new rules, but certainly a new mechanism that the state police and PennDOT can use in order to make our construction zones, our work zones, safer.
Right.
Tell me about this.
Sure. So I had to brush up on this myself and do some research so that I could be properly informed. This all came about under Act 86 of 2018, which was established by the Pennsylvania General Assembly. And out of that act came this program, which is being called the Automated Work Zone Speed Enforcement Program. And this is basically to encourage safe driving in work zones. And the primary aspect of this program is someone can be issued a citation in the mail automatically now. If they are exceeding this posted speed limit in an active work zone by 11 miles an hour or more.
Okay.
So this is only being done in active work zones. Right now, as last I checked, it was deployed in Bucks, York, Berks, and Montgomery counties.
Yeah. As construction seasons start, though, we should probably see it all across the Commonwealth.
I know that the system, it's going to be deployed all throughout the state based on different parameters and criteria. Primarily, this is a PennDOT program, and PennDOT has authorized a vendor to actually run this system. And so there are certain things that would be taken into account when they decide where to place these units. And the units that are being deployed are actually vehicles that will be mounted with radar equipment and a camera. So it would take a picture of the license plate. The system would gather that registration information, and the registered owner would be mailed for a first offense, a written warning notice. For a second offense, a fine of $75. For a third and subsequent offense, the fine increases to $150. That's a civil penalty. And so it does not carry any points on your driver's license, but you will be expected to pay that fine. If you don't, as I understand, it will be turned over to a debt collection agency. But back to those units that will be deployed, the criteria that they'd be looking for would be past crashes in certain work zone areas, speeds that they're seeing in work zones, geometric restrictions, worker activity, the type of activity that's occurring there, whether the work zone is protected by a physical barrier or barricades, and feedback from the PennDOT district that covers that area.
Okay. All right.
PSP is involved in this program in that troopers will be reviewing select violations and ensuring the accuracy of those. But that's pretty much the extent of our participation directly in the program, from what I understand.
But it does give us an opportunity to talk about work zone construction, and maybe this is a good time to do it because the season hasn't started yet around these parts where there's a lot of work zones, where there's a lot of work going on. But it will. In just a couple of months, it'll ramp up considerably. And so we probably need to define for people what is a work zone.
With this new program, the Automated Work Zone Speed Enforcement Program, this again is only being done in active work zones. So there will be signage in place at the beginning of the work zone that this is an active work zone and this program is in effect. So that will be clearly indicated to motorists. It's not going to be anything that's hidden. But yeah, the work zone season goes from when the weather starts to get nice again into the fall. Here in Indiana County, our station commander, Lieutenant Loughran, has been very active in partnering with PennDOT District 10 for Operation Yellow Jacket, where we do speed enforcement in active work zones. And that Operation Yellow Jacket involves a trooper in a PennDOT vehicle with a radar gun, and then calling out violations to our troopers down the road.
Or stationed just a little ways away.
Yeah.
So they can catch them coming through.
Yeah. Talking about work zone safety and the hazards, I pulled up a press release, and PennDOT Secretary Leslie Richards stated last year 23 motorists were killed in a Pennsylvania work zone.
Wow.
Through this program, we are urging motorists to slow down and pay attention while driving, especially in work zones where roadway conditions can change on a daily basis. And quote there. So that's something that if you're a commuter driving through work zones, you know that they do change all the time. You've got to be driving with your head on a swivel and being very attentive.
I really do. Last summer, and I don't know where we were going, or either going out, we went to Philadelphia and we went to Boston, and we drove both ways. But I recall pulling off at a rest stop, and there was a monument there to PennDOT workers, and all of them were listed who have been killed while they were working in a construction zone, in a work zone.
Yeah, that's sad. That's a lot of families impacted by that over the years.
There were a lot of names on it.
There are, and actually, I have that number. Since 1970, PennDOT has lost 89 workers in the line of duty, and the Pennsylvania Turnpike has lost 45 workers since 1945.
Wow.
So that certainly is a lot of families affected.
Yeah.
I know that through doing Operation Yellow Jacket and talking with some PennDOT employees, they are very grateful when we do that because it does keep them safer.
Yeah, you got to slow them down. Got to slow down people through those work zones. Talk, if you would, for a couple of moments about the signage in a work zone. It can differ. It can vary. Sometimes you'll see the signage that says this is a work zone, so you know it's a work zone. Sometimes it says work zone when flashing. Is there a difference that people should take note of there?
Yeah, the primary difference would be if you're driving, you want to look for a flashing light, and that would be accompanied with a sign that says active work zone. So if the light is flashing, you can assume that there are workers present in that work zone. If the light's not flashing, then it still is a work zone. It's still under an area under construction, but no one is presently working there.
Yeah, sometimes people wonder, well, if there's nobody working here, how come I have to slow down?
Yeah.
But it's obvious that, the road is not the way the road is supposed to be right now. It's under some sort of work, and therefore we need to use some extra caution.
Right. Typically, you'll have cement barriers in place, cones in place to direct traffic through the work zone safely. And PennDOT, I know, does studies, and they do the best they can to set up that work zone so it can be as safe as possible, but still allow the work to be done. So you may have lane changes, you may have varying heights in the road surface, bumps, and typically those are marked with signs. If there's a bump, be prepared for that, slow down.
And especially in a foggy day, you don't know those things are coming.
Foggy morning, especially when the sun is rising and the glare is in your eyes. That's a very dangerous time.
Yeah.
And you got to bring your sunglasses.
So we watch out for folks in our construction zones and for traffic that pulls out from areas that typically they would have a nice clear view, or else there wouldn't be a pull out there. But because of construction equipment or whatever it happens to be, the view might be somewhat obstructed. So you have to be careful around all of it.
Right. In researching this new program being implemented for speed enforcement in work zones, there are work zones in many places where we as troopers would be happy to do speed enforcement, but there's simply no safe area within the work zone to do it. We would need an area to park a patrol car safely, and then an area to pull people over as well. And a lot of times that just doesn't exist. So this new program will aid in that. It's kind of helping us in that respect.
It's not the same thing, but while you're here and we have a couple of moments left, talk about the steer clear law. That's very important at any time of the year.
Sure. The steer clear law, it's also known as the move over law. It went into effect, I believe, in 2012. So it's now about 8 years old. A lot of people still are not familiar with it. Basically, it means that if you are driving a vehicle and you are approaching what's called an emergency response area. That's the term in the vehicle code. That could be a police officer conducting a traffic stop, could be a tow truck operator helping a disabled motorist, could be an ambulance on the side of the road or a fire truck. You are required to slow down and or move over and give those workers or police officers space. Yeah. So if you're on a two-lane road and it's safe and legal to move over, you have to do that. Or you can be cited for that. And we have cited a lot of drivers here in Indiana County for that violation. Section 3327 in the vehicle code.
Mm-hmm. When the guy can quote the section number right off the bat, you know that it's something that is a common thing. It's all about safety, protecting emergency responders in that case, and the motorists that they're helping, protecting construction workers in work zones, protecting your other motorists, everybody around you.
Right. And I would bet that a lot of your listeners this morning know of someone who is a highway worker in some capacity, and they want that person to have a safe work day and get home to their family at the end of their shift.
I know a gentleman who got really busted up a few years ago, and he was working the sign. He was running the sign. And he got
too bad.
It's too bad. It is. And it's a lifetime of recovery for him. And you think of those who don't even get the chance to recover, and it's a very serious thing.
Right.
Thanks so much for coming in to talk with us this morning.
My pleasure.
We appreciate it. And, of course, anytime you have something you want our listeners to know about, let me know. We'll get you on the air.
Okay. Thank you very much.
He is State Police Public Information Officer Trooper Clifford Greenfield, and we talked almost right up to the number. It's 9:57, just about 2 minutes away from the top of the